Heard a bass guitar. I heard a band. I went on a Saturday night to a dance, and I heard a band with a real bass guitar, and I thought, God, that's what's missing in my band.
Who was the band you heard? Do you remember the band?
Yeah, it was called the Baron Knight. They were a band in the 60s that imitated all the other bands. They could do the Beatles, the Stones, the Kinks, and everybody else that was around at the time, Jerry and the Pacemakers, Billy J. Kramer. And they could imitate all those bands. They were very talented, but they were like a, what would you call it, called Call Up the Bands, and they would imitate all the bands, and they were very, very good, and they toured with us for quite a while. But when I heard that bass guitar, I thought, shit, that's what's missing, you know, the deep sound that was there, and I ended up being the bass player because no one else wanted to. I thought, I've got to get a bass guitar, but I didn't have any money. So my drummer, Tony Chapman, who started off with the Stones as well, just before me, found this ancient bass guitar from some old jazz musician, and we bought it for £8, which is probably in that time about $3 of your money. And I just tore it to bits. It was an awful thing, you know, and I just chopped it up, did a design, and did it on a fretwork machine with a friend, just cut it out and stripped it all down, changed all the electricity parts, you know, changed the pickups, and put new strings in and everything, tore all the frets out because they were all rattling.
It was a Bill Wyman custom.
Fantastic. So I never put the frets back in, and I suddenly realized years and years later that I invented the fretless bass.
You invented the fretless bass. That's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't know until about 10 years ago.
Now, how did you know how to do the wiring and all that? You were really crafty, huh?
Well, I had a friend who was an electrician, and we did it together, and I built my own bass cabinet with an 18-inch speaker in it, which was unheard of in those days. Yeah. And I built a little 30-watt amp, which I got electric shocks off of every time I touched it, but at least it worked, you know, it worked with stuff. And that was what I used when I first joined the Stones, and I gave them my Vox AC30 and another little amplifier because they didn't have any amplifiers, and I said, but this is mine.
You always had really cool basses. Tell me some of your favorite basses over the years.
Well, there was that one, the homemade bass, because I could do those slides on it, and I used that on and off in recordings right up until '76. I used it a lot in the Exile on Main Street album in the south of France, and it's now welded to the wall at Sticky Fingers restaurant, yeah. my restaurant in London. You will never get it off the wall.
You can never play it again.
I used it when I first started out doing my new band, Bill Wyman's Rhythm Kings. I used it on a few of the early records, and then I thought, no, it's not making it anymore, so I put it in the restaurant for everybody to see. And I've had a bass made in the style of that bass now, which is called a Bill Wyman signature bass, and I've been using that the last 2 years. It's a complete copy of that original bass, except it has got frets, of course, and it is more modern looking. It's a bit cleaner, and but it's the same weight, it's the same size, it's the shape, it's a short scale, so it's perfect for young kids to start on and everything. And it's a great bass.
Tell me a little bit about how the role of the bass player changed in rock and roll. We always kind of look to both the Beatles and the Stones, but in particular Paul McCartney kind of took it to another level. Tell me about your thoughts on Paul's bass playing, and did that influence you at all?
Not what he played. I was listening more to people like Duck Dunn, Booker T's band, and soul people, Jackie Wilson tracks, Sam Cooke and Fats Domino and Ray Charles. I was listening to all that stuff. But when Paul came in and they came to that rehearsal in '63 and played us I Want to Be Your Man, Paul just took my bass and turned it around and played it backwards because he's left-handed. And I thought, oh no, that's too much. I can't deal with this. We did remain friends, and we still do. of course, but it did blow my mind at the time, because I can imagine I could never have done it if he was showed me a left-handed bass, you know.
Yeah, if he flipped it over, right?
Yeah, I think he was probably used to it, you know, because being left-handed, he probably messed around with right-handed guitars, but it did blow my mind at the time.
Tell me the importance of the drummer, especially, you know, for you and the Stones, and then after the Stones.
Extremely important, because, you know, as soon as Charlie, my drummer, left the Stones, we just clicked, not only musically, but we clicked personality-wise, and it's still there even to this present day. I mean, Charlie and I are very close friends, and we stay that way because it's just something special that we were able to achieve between us as a rhythm section. And I think a lot of people took that on board in other bands and all that in later years.
And does your playing change at all when you change drummers?
Totally. You know, when I left the Stones, you know, I was in a rock band basically, wasn't I? You know, Stones had moved on from a blues band to a R&B band, and suddenly were like a rock band out in stadiums and all that, where I had to really play in a certain way. But when I left the Stones, and 2 years went by before I decided to get back into music, and then I formed my own band, Bill Wyman's Rhythm Kings, with Georgie Fame and Albert Lee and all those great players. 90% of it was a double bass. You know, it was either Willie Dixon on the Chicago blues things we did, or that was just double basses on everything. And so I had to rethink how I could play more like a double bass. So I had to reorganize my entire style of bass playing and start playing just with my thumb, and playing the bass more in a backward way than a forward. If you're playing rock, you're playing down on the strings from the bottom strings to the high strings, yeah?
Right.
Like a do-do-do-do-do-do-do or whatever. But when I was thinking about a way a double bass plays, it's usually from the high strings backwards. It's like you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I had to rethink the way I played to suit better the music I was doing with the Rhythm Kings. It completely changed my style, but people were coming to me and saying, when they were listening to the records, who's playing bass on that track, you know? And I said, it's me. They said, no, it's a double bass. And I said, no, it's me trying to sound like a double bass.
Wow, so you're always progressing, you're always learning, even still, right?
Well, I think that's what a musician does, isn't it? And also a vocalist as well. You have to keep learning, you have to keep taking stuff on board that you listen to. I'm not technically brilliant, you know, I know that. But I can do the business the way I do it, in simplicity, the way Duck Dunn did it, and the way Carl Radle did it, and people like that with the Eric Clapton band. Just doing it right and leaving space for other people, not getting busy. I hate busy bass players, and I have to admire them for their talent and their skills and all that, but it doesn't inspire me at all as a musician. I think, no, that's not what bass players are about. We play with the bass drum. You know, we lay the foundation and we play simple, and we leave space for other people. We leave holes. And the more holes you leave, the more interesting it is.
I like that. That's a great quote.
Yeah, because you don't fill them up. You know, if you fill them up, there's no room.
There's no room for the other band members.
Exactly.
Hey, Bill, we're going to play a few songs with you playing the bass. And just off the top of your head, sitting in the office there, some of your favorite bass playing tracks, either with the Stones, anything.
Well, 90s Nervous Breakdown with my zooming bass at the end of it. Andrew said, do something at the end, Bill, so that's what I came up with, and it worked, so that was kind of nice.
Hey, real quick, In Another Land, Steve Marriott and Ronnie Lane on that track, or just Steve Marriott?
No, the two of them.
Both of them. Tell that story, because I don't think a lot of people know that half the Small Faces are on that track.
They were in the other studio. We were in Studio 1, they were in Studio 2, and I don't know whether someone went in and asked them to help me out, because I said, I just can't do this vocal, you know, I just don't feel comfortable about it. And they came in and kind of helped me out doing it. They kind of gave me some encouragement and some help singing it, and someone suggested doing it with a tremolo to sort of help to hide my horrible voice. But then I was able to repay that with Ronnie Lane, because when Ronnie had MS and he was dying, I stood in for him on a number of occasions with the Faces. I did Wembley Stadium with Rod Stewart and did some songs for him. I did Rod Stewart's Brit Awards show when he did 3 songs, and so on and so on. I was able to stand in, and even in recent years I stood in with the Faces about 2 or 3 years ago and did something, the Royal Albert Hall.
Right.
So, that was for Ronnie paying him back. So thank you.
Wow. All right, gang. Well, we're going to get back to music here. This next one featuring the great Bill Wyman and his Rolling Stones. 19th Nervous Breakdown. Bill, thank you so much for taking time to talk to us about bass playing today.
Pleasure.
You're in Little Steven's Underground Garage.
Pleasure, mate.